Welcome, everyone, to the first night of our nightly Republican National Convention post-show coverage. My name is Matt Binder of Doomed.
And I'm Jared Holt from Shitpost.
And we're coming to you live from Jacksonville, Florida, where the RNC was supposed to be. And, we couldn't get refunds on our tickets. So here we are.
Yeah, it's crazy, man. The change fees on these airlines are insane.
That's why if you're watching on YouTube, you can see that it is pitch black darkness behind us because we are actually broadcasting from what I guess would have been the press row from this empty arena where they haven't put on the lights.
Where they're playing 90 Day Fiancé in the background for some reason.
Right. Well, they had
one television in the back.
They had set up the TVs for everyone, and I guess they just forgot to take that one down and left on whatever channel would be playing that movie.
Right. We kept asking them to turn to the convention, but oddly enough, the lone person in the auditorium for some reason was very insistent to be caught up on this week's drama from the hit TLC series.
Oh boy. It's kind of humid here in Jacksonville. Not quite. Oh, okay. Well, just in case you didn't know, everyone, we are not actually in Jacksonville, Florida. We're actually in, where was it? Charlottesville? Is that where it's taking place
now? No. Charlotte.
Oh, Charlotte, right. Ooh, I'm thinking different. Yeah.
Oh, no. Listen, I think, the Republican Party can have a tendency to be tone deaf, but I don't think it's that bad,
That would have been something else. That would have been something else. Wow. I mean, really would have been... would have made this a little bit more crazy, I guess, if that's even possible.
Yeah, I feel like it would have put this air over things where I don't know, man. I ingest a lot of crazy stuff just for my work every day, but I think even that would kind of short circuit my brain a little bit.
Yeah. Well, let's sort of set because this is going to be, Jared and I are going to be doing this every night for the next 4 nights, Monday through Thursday. And I would like to, first of all, commend the RNC for ending early.
Yeah, I thought this was going till 11.
Right. This could have been, I thought it would possibly even going later, like some of those later DNC nights went last week. But, let's I don't even know where to begin with this. Well, first of all, thank you everyone for joining us. Matt Binder of Doomed, youtube.com/Matt Binder. It's being live streamed there. Catch the audio version of the show afterwards at doomedpod.com and support the show at patreon.com/Matt Binder. Go ahead, Jared, get a plug in and then we'll get right into it.
Yeah, so what's up, Shitpost listeners? You're hearing it on the Shitpost RSS feed in whatever podcast player you may be playing it on. If you want to support the show that I'm doing, cancel your subscription to Matt Binder's Patreon and support Shitpost on Substack. shtpost.substack.com is the link there.
Ooh, but see, that requires you guys to go ahead and sign up for a new account at Substack when you already have all of your credit card information in the Patreon because you're already paying for like Chapo and whatever else shows you play for. So it's just easier just to subscribe to me. So,
I look forward to the next hour of rigorous debate between the financial support of our shows.
All right. Well, for people who don't know, we're doing a dual thing here, Doomed and Shitpost, and it'll be fun. But it's being live streamed at youtube.com/Matt Binder. And if you're watching live, you can send a super chat, get your question in, and me and Jared will make sure to get to your comment and or question during the feed. And without any further ado, let's jump right into it. So, I guess I want to tell you I want to ask what stood out for you, I guess, Jared. But first, I just need to point out the fact that Charlie Kirk opened up tonight's event. How did that happen? I mean, what?
I mean, at CPAC this year, he opened up, if I'm remembering correctly, the day that Donald Trump spoke to CPAC. So, Charlie Kirk is a kind of like wonder child, however old, 20-something-year-old wonder child of the Republican Party. What he speaks to is very enticing to Republican supporters who feel like they have lost support in younger generations of people. So Charlie comes along, and he's kind of that figure who is able to tell older generations that not all the kids are like this, and we're working and organizing them to get active in the same way that maybe you did at a Young Republicans Club. But immediately in Charlie Kirk's speech, he starts off being like, I'm speaking in a personal capacity, probably to avoid any nonprofit status conflicts there. And, it was like straight out of the gate. There was one point in his speech where he said that Trump is the bodyguard for Western civilization, which is a dog whistle if I've ever heard one. And, then he's making these sort of Christian nationalist plays about America being a place where it's going to be easy to have many children. That was such a weird line that struck me. He is like, we're going to have many children and it's going to be easy to go to church, which are concerns held by Christian nationalists who view the country as something that should be sort of like a Christian theocracy via government. So his speech was a really interesting way to kind of kick off the primetime speaking slots for this week. And, I watch this stuff all the time, but I was still, kind of raised an eyebrow at what I heard Charlie Kirk say to start this thing off.
Right. Yeah, I mean, to me, it was just shocking to see them give Charlie Kirk the big opening. That's putting some real... you're raising the kid's profile to the mainstream Republican. I mean, I'm sure they know who they are, but this is prime time TV. You're giving Charlie Kirk. So I mean, that is a way to kick it off, and Charlie is his whole shtick now seems to, it's been his shtick for a long time, but his whole shtick seems to be the anti-socialism brigade, trying to lure away the youth of America from the DSA, I guess. So, I guess he fits the theme of the night, which will probably be the theme of all 4 nights. Really, you'd think Trump was running against Bernie Sanders, to be quite honest with you. The way socialism kept...
Oh, well, I was just going to say that it's not surprising. For the last 2 years at CPAC, they have, the speakers and, the organizer, Matt Schlapp, they've been abundantly clear that this was the plan all along. It was, as soon as the field of nominees was open, it was, very explicit that, this is going to be a fight between capitalism and socialism. That's how we're going to frame it. And, they've had 2 years to practice this stuff. So I have no doubt they're going to be trying to wheel that out as much as possible.
Right. So, Jared, who stood out for you tonight? Who was, I don't know, the star of the show?
Oh, man, that is a hard one to choose.
I actually thought Don Jr. was underwhelming. I thought it was going to be him.
I agree. I think the one that's going to stick in most people's minds is Kimberly Guilfoyle, but only because, she delivered her speech so energetically, so loudly, which at a convention makes sense, right? I'm sure if it was a standard convention setting, that crowd would have been on their feet, screaming, cheering, I've seen Kimberly speak in public many times, and she has, she's able to get these pro-Trump audiences just super revved up. But doing so in, I couldn't figure out exactly where it was just by looking at it, but it's like this sort of empty auditorium
Right.
where, it's just this like cavernous space where, every speaker's voice is ricocheting off the wall. It was a little odd to see that.
She was one of the few people who actually had a live speaking slot. She wasn't pre-taped when she went on the air. She was live.
Oh, really? I didn't know
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, that's what I was reading who was live here. I have a list of some of the live speeches, and she was live. She was not pre-taped.
Huh. That's interesting.
So I guess, they didn't get a chance to, if it was pre-taped, they could have looked at her speech, watched how she delivered it, and been like, Kimberly, maybe we should reshoot this. But that's not what happened.
No, not at all. I also think that Nikki Haley's speech was interesting. It came across to me as maybe a play to kind of get back into some official capacity in Trump world. But there had been so much floated online by various columnists, pundits, whatever, that like for years that Nikki Haley was going to be like the ghost vice president candidate, that like she was waiting in the wings, and maybe for 2020 Trump would switch Pence out for Nikki Haley because Nikki Haley's very popular with conservatives. And that's obviously not what happened. The convention this afternoon resecured Mike Pence back into the ticket.
Oh, he was never going anywhere. Well, what were people even thinking there? It's like conspiracy theories from the other side of the aisle. You know what I mean? Like,
right. It strikes me as people trying to write fan fiction because the reality just sucks. It like you have to try to pretend that maybe something like tactical is going on behind the scenes.
right.
But something about her speech that stood out to me was she very clearly stated that she did not believe that America was a racist country. And then she went on to talk about some of the hardships that her, immigrant parents faced. And then to talk about Dylan Roofs, who's a white supremacist who murdered, masses of worshipers in a majority black church. I'm trying to figure, it didn't seem, I kind of get what she was going for, I guess, right? Where it's like this terrible stuff happened, but we healed and came together. But I don't think she really, squared it off in a way that felt complete. So it just kind of left me kind of in a weird spot by the end of it.
Right. That was the whole night pretty much. I think every speech had, and obviously when you're talking, sometimes you say something, counterintuitive maybe to a counter to a point you said earlier, and it happens. But literally every single speech tonight, every speaker did that. Every speaker. It was just, one that really stood out to me, and this was they stole the show to me. The gun couple, the what were they? I can't even say their name.
I mean, I'm sure everybody.
The McCloskeys.
I'm sure that everybody has seen that photo. If you don't know who those folks are, there was a photo that seemed to be on every news station, every social media feed of a couple bearing firearms, pointing them at Black Lives Matter protesters in St. Louis. They got a speaking slot, and they used it to say, like what happened to us, Black Lives Matter activists, yelling at a megaphone through our house, that could happen to you if you think you live in a quiet suburb and nothing bad is ever going to happen. Well, you better watch out. And
right.
The Democrats want this to happen to you, and Trump is going to save you from it. It was very bizarre.
Well, they literally. I think she might be the only person they called out by photograph. They plastered Cori Bush's face on the screen while the gun couple were talking about her. They called her a Marxist revolutionary, which awesome. I mean, I'll take it. And Cori Bush, they went after her in this speech, showing her on the screen, because she was one of the people marching and leading the protests that went past this couple's house. She had a megaphone, and she made her opinions known to this couple, who came outside with guns, like you said. But one moment that really stuck out to me is they're literally the couple who came out of their homes to threaten protesters marching in the street with firearms. And they go on to lament a time when one could express your beliefs without retribution.
Right. It's like, it's so backwards, man. Like, I almost, you listen to stuff like that, you almost have to wonder if they hear themselves or if they care, like, is the political expediency worth it? Are they just counting on their audience to not think about it?
I think it's a little bit of both sometimes. I think a lot of times they don't have the wherewithal to realize what they're saying, and then a lot of times if they did, they also wouldn't care. It's like a 1-2 knockout, it really doesn't matter if either or, because it's probably a little bit of both.
Yeah, so we don't have to go through every speaker. Some were more interesting than others. You had one part of the night was from a nurse practitioner and a surgeon. There were a couple of videos that went along with these speeches talking about how awesome Trump did on the coronavirus response and how, his quick action and leadership supposedly saved millions of lives.
This is not to interrupt you, but this was something that really stood out to me because, some of these themes would have happened at any sort of Republican National Convention, regardless of when it happened, the timing. We'll probably hear a lot of these speeches about socialism and the Democrats and the various roster of Democrats for the next 10, 15 years in some shape or form. But the coronavirus stuff was very, interesting because listening to what's going on, congratulations, President Trump, for solving the coronavirus pandemic. It's done. We're scot-free. Jared and I just didn't get the memo, and we should be hosting this right now from legitimately from Jacksonville, Florida. But I guess they couldn't rebook the arena in time because otherwise the pandemic's done. It's over, according to like 99% of the speakers who talked about it.
Right, and they kind of pitched it in a way that it seemed like some of them were trying to insinuate that Trump was responding amazing, but if Joe Biden gets in there, it could jeopardize everything, and this could flare up again. I don't remember anybody saying that explicitly, but that did seem to me to be kind of the clear subtext there.
Right. It was. There was one guy specifically. I think he might have been the first speaker to bring up the coronavirus that they flaunted on stage as a surgeon. And it was fact checked online that this guy is like a reconstructive doctor, like a oral reconstructive surgery. He's not like a surgeon that would be dealing with coronavirus patients. But they put him out there as if he would be some sort of specialist to, do some sort of emergency surgery to save the life of a coronavirus patient. It was. That's one thing that I noticed that we didn't need during the DNC. Not saying the DNC was, the Democrats were perfect, but there wasn't. I was watching both the official stream on my computer, and then I had various cable news channels on my television in order to see how they were covering it. And MSNBC specifically would constantly cut in to have to fact check. And kudos to them, because they said they felt like they couldn't just let certain claims just stand, especially if they were dangerous or harmful. And, the whole thing was full of that. I don't even know how you go about fact checking this entire night, because it was just left and right when it comes to just misinformation and outright lies.
Right. And, I think we're definitely going to hear more of that throughout the convention. There's going to be, I think, a very, aggressive attempt to rewrite history on the coronavirus, just because public perception of the president's handling of the situation, according to the polls that are out there, are overwhelmingly negative. So, I think as they attack Joe Biden in sort of his strongest corners, it's very Karl Rovian strategy. They are also going to be kind of trying to, this word gets overused, I hate it, gaslight their base, but there's not really a much better word for it, I don't think.
Right. As someone in the chat points out, that doctor also just like a plastic surgeon. That was what I was trying to words I was trying to grasp. We got a few super chats. Let's go to these comments. Champagne Communista asks, who do you think had the best speech of the night, and why is it Kimberly Guilfoyle? Here's here's my question though. Do you mean like legitimately, like if we were to rank someone who actually had a good for the RNC speech? I mean, you can't really say good, but all things considered, or do you mean like who our favorite was for sheer whatever value we want to take out of it? Because,
right. Am I putting on my serious hat here, or am I just talking about the entertainment value?
Right. I would say maybe the best speech for the Republicans, if they're looking to, if you want a good speech, minus the again, another funny line of the night. Tim Scott says, don't judge someone based on what they say. And then he goes on to run down a couple of Biden like verbal gaffes as proof that Biden is bad. I mean, that's another thing that stood out to me, actually, now that I say that. At the Democratic National Convention, whenever they talk about Trump, they talk about what he has done. And they really focus on how he's been a bad president and where his failures have been and what wrong he's done and what the outcomes of his decisions have been. The RNC, I mean, you have a former vice president in Biden. You could go after specific policies that Biden and the Obama administration put forth. A few of them did that, but most of them seemed to be focusing on just like his verbal gaffes. I mean, is that really that's all you? That's what you want to? That's what you want to do? That's what you spend your time on? I mean, yeah, they're funny, but here's your chance to. I mean, is it that they just don't do the work to figure out what they got, or do they think their base loves the verbal gaffes more than? But that wouldn't be true either, because then you could tie Biden directly to Obama, and their base is no fan of Obama. I don't get the calculation there, to be quite honest.
Yeah. So to give, the viewer who asked that question the bang for the buck here on the super chat, I'm going to say most politically advantageous, the person that I thought made the most compelling speech, for better or for worse, regardless of accuracy or, ideological agreement that, I do or don't have, would be Tim Scott, the senator from South Carolina. I think he's a very skilled presenter, and, was able to weave in these personal anecdotes that I think a lot of Republican audiences will find inspiring and relatable.
Oh, you know who else actually? That's Tim Scott stand out, but another person simply because there was nothing really to his speech other than his own personal experience, and it totally feeds right into their narrative of the good immigrant who experienced bad socialism, the small business owner from who escaped Fidel Castro in Cuba. That is
small business owner. You mean the founder of Sunshine Gasoline?
right. They put it as small business owner. You sort of. I was gonna.
It's all relative.
Thank you,
Matt.
Jared.
It's all
right.
relative.
But that's on the screen when I was watching. They said small business owner, and I was going to play it up and then, but you gave it away, so that's good.
Nah.
Thank you, Jared.
Entertainment value, I will say Donald Trump Jr., but that's only just because I got a soft spot for that guy. He is such a weird, fascinating creature. I really can't. Every time I think I've got Trump Jr. figured out, he surprises me. What can I say?
I really thought he disappointed.
And tonight it was the half closed eyes, wearing a tie that has did the Moore effect, which is like a photography video thing. If you wear a really tight grid pattern, the way video shutters roll, it'll create this really disgusting looking pattern. And it was kind of a flop. I kept thinking Trump Jr., he's always one at these events to kind of bring the house down, but I was super underwhelmed. And the last thing I'll say is maybe best line of the night is Joe Biden is basically the Loch Ness monster of the swamp, which rules. Right. Because Loch Ness is not a swamp.
Right. I'm forgetting what the best line of the night to me was. Hold on, let me pull it up because
you have to say which one gave you the best kicks for entertainment value.
The best speech that gave me right. I think it was the McCoys, the McClatchies, the McCloskeys, the whatever the gun couple is. They were fantastic. I loved it. It was I mean, you literally had a meme invited to speak. That's what they are. They're a meme. That's all they are. That's what they did, something horrible and scary, obviously, those protesters. But that's not, they were invited because they're a meme. I guess they'll be topped by Diamond and Silk when Diamond and Silk go up and speak this week. But, until then, there's your meme of the night, right? My favorite line of the night, though, was from Vernon Jones, the Democrat from Georgia who endorsed Donald Trump. And I don't know what he was trying to say here, but he didn't stop or correct himself. So this is clearly what he wanted to say. But he said that Donald Trump ended once and for all the policy of incarceration of black people. Period. End of discussion.
He never corrected himself on that.
So, Jared, this is news to me. But apparently, there are no more black people in jail? I
think what he was trying to say, he was kind of making a reference to the crime bill that Joe Biden supported while he was in the Senate, and was trying to make the argument that the Trump administration is trying to roll back some of the negative effects that that bill had on the policing of minority communities in the U.S. But whoever that speechwriter is just needs to get pulled aside. Maybe the teleprompter glitched or something, because that did not come out right.
Right. If that was the policy to just end the incarceration of black people, I'd be 100% for it. Sign me up. But unfortunately, I don't think Donald Trump has that in his agenda for term number 2.
Right. You've got every radical leftist in the U.S. with their head on a swivel, he supports what? Sorry, Bernie. I gotta go over here now.
Listen. My ears perked up for that one, and I was like, "Is that true? Am I voting for Donald Trump this year? What's going on?" But alas, it was not. It was not true. Also, we got that former NFL player, Herschel. His name is Herschel Walker. Right? Is that his name? I'm drawing a blank right now.
Yep, it's him.
Herschel Walker, right? And he had a great line when he said that he said how he's a really great judge of character, and then proceeded to use that as his proof that Donald Trump is a man of faith. And listen, I get the type of people who like Donald Trump. If you like Donald Trump, I understand how he appeals to you. I get exactly why he appeals to you. I totally understand it. But that appeal isn't the man of faith thing. I mean, that's just we're really gonna pretend like the whole Trump supporters, when they say why they like him so much, it's literally because he's an asshole. It's because he's an asshole to the left. He says what he wants. He's no man of faith. Why do we pretend? Why do they pretend? I mean, why do that? Why do that? Does it make you feel better? Because even the evangelicals who support him, there's no way deep down. They even come out and say when they talk about him and they defend why they vote for him, they say, he's a man of sin, but he's doing God's, God chose a sinful man to spread his message because that's how God works. The Lord works in mysterious ways, Jared.
Right. The evangelicals tried for a minute to sell their supporters, which happened to be among Trump's largest base of voters, which is white evangelicals. They tried for a second to sell him on, Donald Trump, he's a man of faith. He loves God. Sure, he's messed up, but he's seen the light. And now they're just like, all right, listen, we're getting judges and we need those. So here's the thing. He's doing what we want. So, hush.
Right. I mean, that's at least just be honest with yourself. There's no need to pretend that Donald Trump is a man of faith. I mean, there's probably no one who fits the bill less, I should say. So here's something interesting that I don't know if people caught unless they were, following those who were tweeting about it or were watching the channel themselves thinking, the best RNC coverage will definitely come from Fox News. Of course they're going to showcase the RNC wall-to-wall coverage. Minus the fact-check cut-ins, which were actually really short from again, I was watching MSNBC to see them. They, come in for a minute, quick fact-check, back to the feed. They might have missed a speech or two or part of a speech or two. Fox News decided to just roll with their regular primetime lineup. Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity, and they just didn't show full parts, full segments of the RNC, just entire bits wholesale, just not shown or not aired on Fox.
Right, that's super surprising.
And the funny thing was, one person pointed out that Hannity was actually opining over how the other networks are going to censor the Republican National Convention when they show the DNC completely. And those other networks he was talking about were showing the speech from the RNC while Fox News was showing Hannity talking about the other networks, not showing the speech that Fox News wasn't showing. It's incredible.
I mean, you just couldn't make it up, man. It's like a bad TV sitcom. But let's see, how are we doing on time? We said we would try to keep this about an hour. I want to make sure we have time to hit the viewer questions that we have.
We're at minute 36.
All right, let's zoom out and talk a little bit about sort of the general themes that were on display. Something I was taking notes through the whole thing. Something I kept seeing come up is school choice. This is a very big issue, especially among that evangelical Christian base I was talking about, who doesn't want or who wants to teach children creationism, Judeo-Christian values, blah blah blah, whatever they want to say there. Another reoccurring theme was that Joe Biden does not care about working class Americans and does not care about middle class Americans. Another theme I see, and this one was one of the main ones tonight. Democrats want to abolish the police,
right? And
they are enabling mob rule in the street via Black Lives Matter or Antifa, or pick the flavor of the day there. You had a lot of praise of Trump that is, less interesting to me. And then you also had some prominent black conservatives coming out to try to, uh, it, I guess, attack the notion or attack Biden's strong support with black voters in the country. And that's sort of what I mentioned earlier. That's like old school Karl Rove strategy: attack your enemy where he's strong, not where he's weak. Uh, what else do we see? A couple mentions of like
The
Democrats
the
taking
the
guns. That's
that that woman who's running for office in Baltimore, I believe, with that viral video. They literally invited her. She's a black conservative. They literally invited her because the video went viral. I mean, she's got no shot at winning. And the video went viral. It was all over conservative Facebook pages, and I saw it multiple times. Came across it in my daily researching what's going on in the conservative blogosphere and social media circles, and she got a spot. I mean, they're just grasping at straws to try to find people of color who support Donald Trump.
I mean, she almost seemed like, the message is so similar to something like a Candace Owens would say. I almost wonder if like, there was almost like a utility to having her, to not having Candace Owens there. Because I was kind of surprised not to see her on the speaker's lineup. Candace Owens is still very popular on conservative Facebook, conservative Twitter, but she is not going to be at this convention, despite speaking at places like CPAC and that sort of stuff.
Did she have a falling out with someone? Did she have a falling out with Charlie Kirk, or falling out with the Trump clan, or?
I don't. She had some pretty off the wall takes about coronavirus. Makes me wonder, if that was just a little bit, too touchy of an issue to have someone controversial on.
That's a good point, and you'll notice, I think, too. I'm trying to think. The conspiratorial, and obviously Trump voices his support for them a lot of times, but the conspiratorial wing of the party, a lot of them are conspiratorial who even spoke tonight, but I mean, the really out there conspiratorial wing of the party, I think Trump doesn't like that they pretend coronavirus isn't a thing, because his whole angle is that he saved everyone from coronavirus. What he did worked. And if they're out there saying it's all bullshit, then, I mean, either A,
that makes Trump part of the New World Order, man.
Right. Or he just doesn't have that to because they don't always follow logic and connect the dots that, if it's bullshit and Trump's promoting it, that means Trump is in on it. They probably would not connect that, but it takes away something from Trump to pat himself on the back with.
Yeah, for sure. Let's see some other. I'll just hit a few more. We saw the line about like abolishing the suburbs come up a few times. Not ever for any extended length, but that same idea. That is another just like kind of very sharp dog whistle. To where voters will interpret like what is supposed to be conveyed there.
Right. Well, Trump tweeted it out clearly a few weeks ago that they're gonna stop low-income housing from entering the suburbs, so the people who live in the suburbs can continue living their American dream, which sort of lines up nicely with their other talking point, where I think Don Jr. was the one who dropped it tonight. It was probably more school choice comments, but Don Jr. specifically said, children shouldn't be stuck going to a bad school because of their zip code. What? I mean, do they listen to themselves? Again, I mean, I know the line of thinking is the school choice thing, but it's also another thing that could be taken in a very hypocritical sense too. But that's their thing.
Yeah, and then I forget if I said this, but the overwhelming theme that we were kind of talking about earlier is what we've been hearing for months already. Joe Biden, he's an empty vessel. The Democratic Party has been taken over by radical socialists who want to reinvent the fabric of America, subject it to cancel culture and mob rule. That is the rule of law. There's going to be a cultural revolution, a socialist utopia, and the only person who can save us is Trump. And one of my favorite things to do is like listen to the ways that Republicans talk about Democrats, and then try to just picture like what it would actually look like if that was the case. Like if Joe Biden got on the mic and he's just like, "Listen here, Jack, we need to redistribute the wealth in this country." Like what would happen, man? I'm pretty sure like Ronna McDaniel would do a backflip on the stage or something.
I think you've been giving Biden a little bit too much credit for that. I think what would make me like jump up for joy and click my heels together would be like Biden going up there and going, "Listen up, Jack. Listen here to what my friend Bernie Sanders has to say, and you're going to do exactly what he says. You got it?"
He's in charge now.
And Bernie comes up and he's all like, "We're going to redistribute the wealth." And Biden's just behind him licking an ice cream cone. I mean, that's more like it. And then you will still get whatever McDaniel's having a mental block again, even though you just said her name. I needed to get a soda much bigger than this one. For tomorrow, I'm probably going to get an energy drink.
I think it's way more effective if you just get like the 2-liter.
Oh, I got that too. I took this for just so I could ease of drinking, of just having it and just downing it all. Otherwise, I probably would have been done with my 2-liter cup. Well, the cup that I would pour the 2-liter in. Yeah, it's almost midnight here, ladies and gentlemen. But I think this, to me, it is so. People are going to obviously compare the DNC to the RNC. And obviously, there are a lot of people who complained about the DNC and certain things about it. But if you're someone who's tuning in, and again, these people do exist. They are a confusing bunch, but people who have not decided who they're going to vote for. If you're tuning into the DNC and the RNC, or just reading about it or watching some clips, the DNC really was sort of like something to have on in the background and just, lowly, just having in the background, relaxing to just have on, not really. It felt like just boom, just being hit left and right with all this stuff. If you're looking for just like politics to just go away from your life, like a lot of these voters that Democrats and Republicans are fighting for now, because why try to get disenfranchised or poor or other voters who don't usually go to the polls to vote for you? Go after these folks, but that's another conversation another day. If you're looking for just politics to once again go in the background, I mean, the DNC gave you what you were looking for just by how the thing was put together. I mean, the DNC, I feel like it was just like nice, uplifting promo packages, and then when they were dark, it was like just to knock Donald Trump and the situation he's put everyone into, and Biden's life story and why you should feel empathetic and why he's for his life story and why he's like an everyday man. But the RNC, it was just so tightly put together. All these speeches hitting all these different, culture issues, and everything that was about Trump was just like dear leader status, like heralding him as something more than man. Not at all, endearing himself as a commoner to the common people, like they try to usually say when they say, he remembers the forgotten man. It was like a really different type of thing. And then on the other end of the spectrum, if you want to say how the RNC looked good tonight, the roster of future Republican leaders is deep. They got a deep bench, and they really fit everyone in there. Whereas the DNC, I mean, they sparsely booked in terms of people who had speaking roles. And out of those people, not many people I would peg as the future of the party. So, on one hand, I think the DNC's production looked better for the upcoming election, but the RNC's production, I think there's something there to after this election, what could happen to future uh, electoral outcomes.
Yeah, I mean, if Republicans are consistently good on one thing, it is message discipline. They know, they conduct all this polling, they figure out what their voters care about, and then they just hammer them the same way that anybody who still has a cable subscription will relate to this. You're watching a show, it feels like you've seen the same commercial like 4 or 5 times. But if I ask you about that commercial, you probably remember it all. It's the same idea, right? They find the set of issues. Joe Biden is socialist. They say school choice is important. They say, Democrats are taking black voters for granted. Whatever this may be. Maybe it's 10 issues. Maybe, I don't know. I'm just spitballing a number here. What I fully anticipate them doing is just repeatedly hammering these messages over and over and over again, the same way a bad commercial might play on your TV over and over again. And from sheer repetition alone, most of this stuff, they're not even trying to argue for anything. This is bad. We need this. They're not articulating the argument for it, because in many cases, when you explain the argument to American voters, they don't come down in favor of the Republican position on it. So, yeah, I feel like the production tonight was like a very, crystal clear embodiment of that tendency of the Republicans, at least from where I was looking at it.
Right. Yeah. But one interesting thing though is, as you bring up messaging though, is there no one to tell any of these Republicans or any of their promo packaging or campaign strategists that there needs to be set up because they're speaking directly to their base? Like, if you aren't watching Fox News or if you're not reading the right-wing online rags every day to update yourself on the latest cultural war or the latest Antifa riot, if you're not, updating yourself on these things, if you're not in that bubble, a lot of these speeches meant nothing to you. It's gibberish. They don't give any setup. There's no explanation, like, there's no origin story to where they're about to lead the viewer to. It just assumes you are in the know, and I can tell you that's just not true for a lot of people who may even be into possibly supporting Trump. I guess maybe their hope is that all they need is one or two of those buzzwords to make a light go off in your head, and that'll reel you in. You just need to hear about a Black Lives Matter protest marching into your small town in the middle of America, and that's all you need to be fully on board the Trump train. But there's just so much of these cultural issues, especially, that just, if you are not just in it, just online, just very online, then this stuff is just over your head. What are they saying? And this is on primetime cable TV.
Right. It's always, something I like to remind people of a lot is how few Americans are really very plugged into politics. If you vote in a midterm election, you're among the most politically engaged people in the United States. An even smaller sliver of that is somebody following the drumbeat of political news.
Right.
This is not a big portion of the populace, and you're even narrowing it further. But I think the strategy here is going to be to hype up the base, tell them that Trump has been killing it, doing everything he said he was going to do for them, whether it's true or not. And then it seems that the strategy, from what I could tell from the DNC, I didn't watch too much of it. It seemed the strategy for getting those sort of undecided independent voters was to say, listen, things are crazy right now. Like, everybody's talking about politics. This is ridiculous. Like, just give the keys back to the adults in the room, and like, we'll take care of this. We'll hammer out this coronavirus stuff the way it should have been done to begin with, et cetera, et cetera. And it seems that the Republican strategy is to scare the ever-living shit out of those independent voters and make them think that America is like teetering towards the edge of collapse, or that if Biden gets elected, like, you can kiss this country down the drain. And I'm very curious. Like, I always have to wonder. Of course, it varies on an individual to individual basis, but like, is this going to work? I guess if we want to go to viewer questions here in just a minute, like, I think that would just be where I would end it. As I'm watching this, reporting on it, thinking, trying to do analysis on it for whatever I publish tomorrow, all I can think is like, is this really going to work?
Right.
Because at least from where I'm sitting, with the personal political views that I have, the place that I work, being a progressive policy, advocation. What am I trying to think of? A progressive advocacy group is what I'm trying to say. I'm kind of immersed in this world where I look at the situation, the playing field, and I think, how can people have not made up their mind yet? And how can people look at the modern day and look back, even like 4 years ago, especially 6 or 8 years ago, and think we're in a better place now. So it's hard for me to wrap my head around, but it doesn't, at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter what I think.
Right.
It's going to come down to whether this works.
Right. Just to let people know, Jared and I have given ourselves an hour out, not because we don't want to talk more with you, but because we decided that if we don't pace ourselves for these 4 nights, we're gonna be down for the count after tonight, and you're not gonna get 3 more nights of wonderful coverage from us. So we have about a little bit less than 8 minutes to go here, but there's a few. I asked for questions, and people gave me super chats just with random comments. Renee with a number of super chats. I'm not even gonna. Renee, will read your super chats another day. These are just all over the place. Chicago with a super chat. Thank you, Chicago. Shout out to the Pizza Godfather, Herman Kane, R.I.P. Tico with a super chat, thanking small donation for your work, Matt. Gracias. Thank you, Tico. But Jared, before we call it a night, there's just a few, and we have a little bit more time. There's just a few things that I noticed we didn't bring up, and I want to focus on. They all surround the man himself, Donald Trump. Obviously, we'll be talking about him more this week. It is his show, pretty much. If you weren't aware, by everyone going out there and talking him up in a way that, just beyond, talking up a nominee. It's really just bizarre the way they speak about him. He actually gave a speech earlier today, this morning, that was expected but not planned. And it was a live speech in front of an audience at the Republican National Convention in Charlotte, North Carolina. It was
they flew down really quick to take the nomination, and from what I know, they flew right back.
Right. It was really weird. There's a lot of content there that I don't really want to jump into now, because maybe we could rewatch the speech and give more time to it another night. We only have a few more minutes. But one thing that really struck me was I'm watching it this morning, and I'm like, wow, this feels like before the pandemic. This is just business as usual. There's a loud crowd. I know the crowd wasn't as big as it was, but they did show the crowd, and it wasn't like the DNC's crowd where it was reporters scattered all over this big floor watching Biden, all from a big distance from each other. These were a bunch of delegates at a table, at various tables, sort of not that spread apart, and they're cheering Trump, screaming, and he's just up there in front of the crowd, and I'm thinking, this just feels like the pandemic never happened almost. They're just acting like nothing happened. And I mean, it was nice for that maybe that one moment to like just go like, oh wow, this is like a pre-February 2020 political speech, before everything went to shit. But then it's also like, thank you to those people who just possibly put their lives on the line to have that moment for Trump. I mean, because that's sort of what it was all about, right? Giving Trump that moment. There's no need for anyone to be there. There was no need for him to fly down there and do that speech in front of a crowd. It was just for him to have the cheers of a somewhat sort of audience for him to take the nomination from. Because, I mean, yeah, it was sort of awkward watching Joe Biden at the DNC accept the nomination with no crowd. They had that little sketch, I think, where some of his staffers came in with like little confetti and balloons, and it was like really awkward. I can't imagine Trump doing that. He wouldn't look at it as like a quaint little but cutesy awkward thing. He would look at it as like weak. Can't have that.
It's also a way to like make sure, the people who serve as delegates who were in Charlotte are often, from their states, leaders of the state GOP, prominent organizers in the GOP, members of Congress in the GOP. It's also a way to go in person and kind of signal his appreciation for their support and their efforts. So, as much as maybe, we all know, Trump has these various tendencies to, crave the attention, approval of a crowd, try to avoid being in too many like deliberately awkward situations. But I think there's also sort of a tactical advantage he has there, or sort of a tactical play that was made, I should say, where he thinks he can, go to this convention, even if just for a little bit, and kind of, make his nod to the people there, thank them for their hard work, and then send them out the door ready to go fight like hell for, what is it, like 80-something days now?
Right, it's close. And I feel like the days just go by faster and faster. It's
right,
crazy.
and I got burned on polling in 2016. I trusted the polls. I was like, you know what? I've got a whole range of emotions for Hillary Clinton, but you know what? I'm resting easy tonight. And then, the vote tally started to come back, and then Florida didn't look how I thought Florida was going to look, and then the Rust Belt started coming through red, and I was like, oh fuck, this is not right.
Not to end boasting myself, but I would say probably August of 2016 was the last time I thought Hillary had it in the bag, and then September, October, and in November, I was like, I don't know, and then I especially thought things were not going to go well that night before the election when I saw where Trump was ending his last campaign rally, where he was ending his campaign essentially. When I saw him deciding to go to Michigan for a rally as the final rally of his 2016 campaign, I was like, there's no reason you would do that. Zero reason you would do that if you didn't think that there was something going on and you were going to win in Michigan. And that would have changed the whole map, I thought, because then other states wouldn't have gone that way either. And, I ended up a little bit too late. Maybe if I had a couple more days, I could have reached out to the Democrats and been like, you guys are going to screw this up. But yeah, it became clear to me, especially at that rally, that it was not going to be a good election night in 24 hours.
My name's Matt Bender. I'm here from the future. Hillary, do not chill in Cedar Rapids. I repeat.
I mean, I wish it was that far in advance because, to be honest, if it was how it really went was, hi, this is Matt Binder from the future. How far in the future? Just yesterday.
Oh, no, but...
Ooh, someone got in a super chat at the wire. Let's take this and then that's a night. How does that sound?
All right, that sounds good. We don't want to exhaust all the commentary in one night. Right. There's so much to say about this, and we've got 3 more nights of this stuff.
I mean, I think we actually wrapped up this first night pretty well, but yeah, there's gonna be a lot more new content each and every night.
But to the point I was trying to make earlier, very fast, I was wrong about the polls in 2016, but the polls don't look that great for Donald Trump going into this election. Certainly not what he was going to hope that they probably would look like. So to that point that I was making earlier about him appearing in Charlotte to fire up his delegates, who are often leading these big GOP coalitions in their states, to fight like hell for them. At the time that, we're recording this, the way the polls look, if we assume they're accurate, they will have to fight like hell to keep this secure.
Not to continue this conversation with the polls, but I've seen polls from this point in 2016 with Hillary and polls this point right now with Biden in comparative side by side, and the polls gave Hillary a better chance in like every battleground state. It's not. It's. I think people are coming in with what is the saying? Rose tinted glasses.
Yep, that's right.
I think. I don't know. I think a couple months ago it was clear, obviously, but a lot of things happened in a couple of months, and I think one thing, and I said this in March when people were talking about how the virus was going to destroy Trump. I was saying never undercount the American people's love for keeping things the way it is. Keep it going under a time of grief. That was Bush's whole thing that cruised him to a re-election. 9/11 just happened. Stay the course. That's the phrasing I'm looking for. That's the phrasing they used. Never undercount America's ability to want to stay the course in a time of trouble. And I think they could possibly do that with the coronavirus. But anyway, let's get to this last question. Ekim, I'm sorry if I'm messing up your name. Kim Gargoyle was scary. What did you think of the St. Louis couple? And was Don Jr. crying? Well, we already gave our feelings on the St. Louis couple. Maybe they missed it. But what did you think of the Don Jr. thing? That was bizarre to me. We discussed the speech, but I don't think we discussed the bizarre tears in his eyes the entire time. And it wasn't like he was giving an emotional speech that made him like think of his childhood with his father. Like it was, I don't want to say it because it'd be allegedly, but there was something there, I don't know.
Yeah, I don't really want to go there. But
did you think he was getting emotional? I don't know.
I don't think it was emotions. I think,
That's all
as maybe I would have told my mom coming home, smelling a little weird, in late high school. I just have some allergies. My eyes just hurt, I think.
I will say that this has happened to me more than once, so let's give the benefit of the doubt. This could have happened to John Jr. more than once. Minutes before I'm about to go live on a stream, I will get something like an eyelash or something in my eye. And right before I go live, my eyes will be like bloodshot red, teary-eyed and everything. And I'll have to like quickly figure out, just like get ready for the stream. So maybe, just bad luck, some people have it. That's what happened to Don Jr. But thank you.
And maybe this is a good place to wrap this up here, but in a land of alleged hypotheticals, what I'd like to imagine really happened to Don Jr. is that, he was slated to speak, and he just heard the Jerry Falwell news, and was choked up, being like, "Damn it, Jerry."
It's not even to mock it. It's possibly true. I mean, they're evangelical leader of the Trump campaign. Basically, I mean, that's another story for another day. If you don't know what we're talking about, maybe Jared and I will have some time in the next 3 days to get into it a little. But look it up, because it wouldn't shock me actually if there's some tears in their eyes to not have that powerful force within the evangelical community to be their cheerleader. So that would not surprise me, actually, Jared. That's actually a very astute, good observation. So with that, thank you, everyone, for joining us tonight. Jared and I will be back tomorrow. Once again, youtube.com/Matt Binder. That's where this is live streamed. That's where it will be live streamed for the next few days. Subscribe at that link, youtube.com/Matt Binder. And you can catch the podcast version of this show and the next 3 nights at doomedpod.com or at
shtpost.substack.com.
It's going to be the same show on both, so pick your poison. Subscribe to both channels, and then you'll have it all set for when we're done with this week, and we're each giving different content once again. And with that,
and this is a economical transaction for you. The RNC is hours long every day. 4 hours of content. Seems like a lot, but we'll have you covered. Right. You are getting the condensed version.
You're getting the condensed
RNC.
Right. The condensed version of the RNC, but also double the doomed and the shitpost content. There you go. Look at that. Just like win, 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 win all around. Jared,
you're gonna get sick of winning, Matt.
Jared, thank you so much for joining me tonight. It was a pleasure, and I look forward to doing it tomorrow.
And the next day. And the next day.
Right. And with that, see you everybody.
Take care.